We are in San Diego. This is nice. Welcome.
How do you like it?
I love it, man. This is why I came to you. So we have this nice vibe. Second floor, San Diego edition. My brother,
Welcome.
what you welcome. Thank you, but welcome on the second floor podcast, man.
Finally.
Finally, man. I've been telling this guy for years to hop on the pod. So first off, I appreciate you for coming on and allowing us to be in your humble home and doing this with a beautiful view. Hopefully, the audience who's watching this on YouTube can see the vibe that we have right now.
Tropical. We've got palm trees.
That's right. That's right.
A bit of fire. Nice.
We have it all. We got the coffees. We got Adriel behind the scenes doing his thing. Brother, I want to talk to you, man. So the reason why I want to have you on the pod is you're one of those guys that I look up to. I think that you have a very unique life. I think the way you move, what you do, over the years that I've known you has been really really cool. And I think from you living in Dubai, kind of your background. You've done some modeling. You're in working kind of like as almost like a digital nomad in a sense, but kind of doing your own thing. And you're one of those guys that has inspired me to do not only like the pod, kind of push with my creative stuff, with my company and everything like that. So I want you to give us a little bit of background, kind of who you are, let our listeners know a little bit who you are, maybe let us know about your upbringing a little bit, because for me, I think you've inspired me to do a lot of things. So I want the listeners to know kind of your background and backstory.
Really? So
Yeah.
No, thanks, man. I'm glad that you look up to me. I mean, I look up to you as well. I know you're a couple years younger than me, but thank you for that. So my name's Ankur Jaswal. I grew up in California, Bay Area, California. Lived there my whole life. Started traveling, when I was about 22, I think it is. I graduated university, majored in economics, went in as pre-med, surprisingly, that pressure, everyone, gotta be a doctor. Went in as pre-med. I really enjoy finance, investing. And so, I majored in economics, graduated from UC Davis up north in the Bay Area. I've been traveling ever since, from that, I started working in consulting. I've worked in modeling for about 10, 12 years. I still do a bit of modeling. Lived in Edmonton, where we met for a couple years, of all places. Edmonton, Alberta. I lived there for 2 years willingly. Moved to Dubai, lived in the Middle East now for about 6 years. Spend a lot of time here in, Southern California, in San Diego, North San Diego County in Carlsbad. So, in a nutshell, that's been me and where I've lived. Spend a lot of time in Europe. I've been all over the place, traveling and always working, as you know.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I think that's the cool thing is like, especially I don't find a lot of guys from, my city, at least the guys that I know who travel, who take, different risks and live in different places. That's really, really unique.
Yeah.
Just from where I'm from, I'm sure there's a lot of people that do that, but I haven't really met anyone kind of like you in terms of kind of how you move and kind of what you do.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of really, drew me kind of out of my own bubble a little bit too, because it was like, Edmonton, I love Edmonton. That's the hometown. That's where family is. That's where everything is. But you kind of almost taught me that there's a whole world out there of opportunity. It's just a matter of like making decisions, taking those risks, and going out of your kind of comfort zone to do that. Talk to me about kind of we'll go into your career a little bit, but talk to me about how the modeling game started a little bit, how you got into consulting, or what was that sort of kind of pathway into those things?
The modeling, right? So I've always did like fashion shows and like all these Indian bridal shows, and One thing kind of led into another, and one day I went to a modeling agency, and they said, "All right, here's your contract, and can you be at a casting next week for I think it was Macy's at the time." So, one thing led into another, and I've been going off ever since then, pretty much. And so that's how the modeling started. Didn't plan on it. I'm always very, consider myself a pretty nerdy guy. Everyone always asks me about modeling, like, oh, you get to go travel around the world and do all these fashion shows and meet all these people and like beautiful women and all these things. At the end of the day, I'm a homebody. I'm always learning something new, always challenging myself every day. And so that's more behind the scenes on my life of what I do. Now, as far as the consulting, I graduated from university in 2012. I really wanted to get like a trading job and like that, that sexy type of job you see on TV. And, I went to about 6 or 7 interviews, got rejected from all of them in San Francisco. And then one day I ended up at a company where they said, all right, we work in finance, but we're more on the IT side. And I said, okay, let's do it. It's a job. And I started doing that. And after a while, I said, okay, what does this company do? And they say, oh, we work with banks all across the world. We implement software. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like, what kind of software and like where? And as I learned as an entry level consultant, and they said, oh yeah, we have implementations in Peru, in Portugal, UK, Singapore, Sydney, all these different cities across the world. And I said, oh, that's really cool. And I met so many people there, and I said, okay, cool. How do I get on one of these projects? And they said, oh yeah, you'd be perfect. You're 22, you're not married. A lot of the married guys, they can't travel to different countries for consulting work for a long period of time, and clients need them. And so I said, all right, what do I have to do? They said, oh, you just have to like excel at this software and learn it really well and become a good consultant. And so, I spent, I think it was about 8 months just learning everything I could about the trading software as a business analyst. Right. And so I went in and went on my first project, and I've been traveling around the world since then. Last 12 years implementing, or 11 years implementing the same software across different banks. And I worked in the U.S. I've worked in Canada with Aimco, investment firm in Edmonton. That's what brought me there. Worked in New York, London, Dubai, worked with a bank there, Emirates NBD Bank. And then I've also worked in Saudi Arabia, where, which is a funny story, but it was the central bank of Saudi Arabia. So I spent 3 years there implementing the trading software as a business analyst. So a lot of my friends and everything, they saw me as a model and taking all these cool photos. But, a lot of the times to challenge myself, I was working as a contractor, as implementing software, so I'd be at a central bank in Saudi Arabia, and I'd fly to London, for a long weekend and do my shoots and everything. And so I still do that to this day. I have my own consulting company. I work with a few clients, mostly in the US at the moment, and that's what just keeps me busy and challenged, intellectually.
Yeah, that's dope, man. I think, a lot of guys, especially our age, kind of, maybe not our age, but, early on, trying to figure out their way in terms of career, trying to make, we're, young 20-year-olds, young 20-year-old Qashus, didn't know what to do. Is going through university, trying to find his way. A lot of people say, if you're passionate about something, that, follow that, and, you'll find your way. But the more I've talked to guys such as yourself and guys that are on the podcast, there's a little bit of a, I think, for me anyway, I think there's kind of sort of two paths. One is, how do you make your money? And the other is who you are. So who are you as a person? And maybe the modeling sort of speaks to that, right? Is that's your passion. For me, it's like the rap, the pod, stuff like that. That speaks to who I am. And then how do you make your money? Right? And how do you financially provide, not only for yourself, but you want to provide for your partner or your family or whatever. And especially in this day and age, there's a lot of options. You see a lot of guys like, I'm a crypto,
Yeah.
fucking like
Yeah.
this, and like I'm an online guru and blah blah blah, right? But
Right.
I've seen how you roll and kind of like what you do, and intrigues me in terms of like, oh wow, like you kind of have your own thing and you're doing it, and it's not very pretty,
Yeah.
as they would say, your business isn't really pretty, like, oh, like this is like something that is kind of like showcased online or whatever the case may be. But
Yeah.
you know maybe what's your advice for young guys, mid 20s, kind of maybe mid to late 20s or even early 20s, who are trying to find their way, and kind of what advice would you give them, especially in your journey from your 20s up until today, and finding your way in terms of your passions, your business, that type of thing?
Yeah, sure. So what I do is, well, the advice I would give is cut out all the noise, right? So we have so many different distractions today, like what is it, the TikTok, Instagram, you have social media distractions, you have distractions, from your peers who they expect you to be one way, like especially growing up in Edmonton, it can be a lot of pressure. You expect you to do this, get married at a certain age and do certain things. And I'd kind of get rid of that for a minute or put that on pause. And I would completely focus in and try to figure out who you are, and it's not easy. I'm 33 now and I'm still figuring out, every month there's something new about myself that I'm learning. And I think traveling has really shown that to me. And I met a lot of people in Edmonton, and they like, oh, I can't travel, I can't do these things. Well, you can. You just have to really decide what it is and structure your life around that. Right? So if you want to spend time abroad, if you want to work and live abroad as well, it's entirely possible. You just have to really define it and find a certain skill set that will allow you to do that. And there's so many opportunities. I remember when when I moved from from Edmonton to Dubai, I left Edmonton. Everyone said, "Oh, you can't go there. You can't wear shorts there. It's a crazy place." And this was 2016 end of 2016. I land in Dubai, and it's more free of a place than Edmonton. You know what I mean? I felt more free there, and so it was just so funny. And everyone who works there specialized in a certain niche, and they were a certain somebody in their field, and they were able to leverage that and kind of work abroad and live there for a few years, or a lot of them are now living there permanently as well. So my advice would be to really focus in on what it is that you want to do and set your goals, cut out the distractions, cut out the expectations that others have of you, and really start to work towards what it is that you want to specialize in and leverage that.
Yeah, for sure. So would you say, like, if I'm a young guy who wants to potentially travel or find something abroad, or even just experience stuff, right? Like, not experience stuff from like going out and partying and going to, like, I see guys that going to Bali or Thailand or whatever. I'm talking about like career. I'm talking about figuring out yourself.
Yeah.
For example, Steve Jobs, before he went into, I think it was Apple or Pixar, he was in India for a year. He traveled to India and he got, ideas there, and he decided his path in terms of going there for a bit, and that led him to, kind of reveal certain things about what he wants to do with his company and or companies. But would you say, if someone doesn't know what they want, do you think traveling is a good option? What are your thoughts on that? If you don't know what you want, or if you don't know a specific career, for example, if I just want to go to Dubai, or I want to go to London, I like London or I like Dubai, should I just, if I'm a young guy, take the risk, hop on a plane there, figure it out when I'm there? Do I be more calculated, strategic? What are your thoughts?
I personally would be a little bit more calculated, and that's how I was. But I've seen a lot of people, they just do it and they go there and they move to another country. But it all depends on, how much you're willing to go to figure out who you are. And for me, everyone says traveling and things like that. I never travel. I don't like traveling for like a week or like going, and I remember when I was in Canada, everyone would go to like Mexico, all inclusive for a week. Like that's the thing to do. But I never really liked that. I'd always go to places for a minimum 1-2 months at a time, meet the people, live like a local. And, I would suggest that whatever it is, a lot of the challenge is supporting yourself financially, right? So the first thing is, as an expat, you have to really plan that out. I would have some type of job lined up. I work in software and in banking. So, I worked with a lot of recruiters and I have a good relationship with them. So I was able to kind of leverage that. And whatever field it is you are in, you need to leverage your network in those respective countries. I always tell you this, Omid. I say, you have to, media is so big in Saudi Arabia, in Dubai, the Middle East. Every time I call you, that's the first thing I say. You need to do this. We should do this. And once you see how things work internationally, you're like, okay, like it's not that tricky. You know what I mean? Like there are people who are doing the same things in the similar fields in those different countries as well.
Yeah. And
that experience is something which, you can be a part of that too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your initial sort of struggles, kind of whether it's career or personal or whatnot. What were sort of the struggles in that journey, whether it was getting into modeling? And maybe actually let's do that. Let's touch base a bit on the modeling side of things. Where did that sort of interest, that sort of, maybe if it's a passion, where did that come from? And what got you to be like, you know what, let me try this, or let me go into it? And you said you did it for 10 plus years and whatnot, and obviously there was something there. How did you get into it? What was the spark? Because you were obviously working on your career, but you're doing this as well. So.
Honestly, I was just working out a lot at the time. I mean, I still do, but
yeah.
I was working a lot at the time, and I said, all right, well, what's my reward? Like in the sense of like, what is the end goal? What's going to keep pushing me? Obviously, at that time in my young 20s, it was, I want to look good. I want to be strong. I want to be fit. And, there's a skinny, tall guy. I'm 6'5", so it's like I was a scrawny, skinny, tall kid. So my thing was, okay, like I'm going to get big and I'm going to find a modeling agency. And people always used to tell me that. So that was my goal. And I just, it's funny. I went to San Francisco and met with a few agencies, and, I went from there. The challenge on that is you just have to really do it. Everyone says like, oh, it's so hard. How did you do that? Like, and especially today, if you want to do something, even if it's modeling, for a lot of guys, like you can do it, especially with online, social media, if that's what you decide. The thing is, you just have to decide on what it is that you want to do if it is modeling. And my challenge for that was just having the confidence in myself to do it, because I didn't grow up there was no models where I grew up in San Jose, California. So,
right.